President Trump recently held a roundtable discussion at the White House to discuss how the police protect Americans and the noble profession that is law enforcement. Two Amac members were selected to participate in this discussion, and they were able to share their positive police encounters they had with members of law enforcement in their communities. And they're here today to share their experiences. Joining us now is Rhonda Norris, an Amac member who had the opportunity to sit with President Trump, Vice President Pence, and Attorney General William Barr at a roundtable discussion on Monday. Rhonda, welcome.
Good morning. How are you doing, Andy?
Doing great. Thanks so much for taking the time to join us. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little about yourself and what you do.
My name is Rhonda Norris. I live in Maryland. I'm a senior high English teacher for a small private school here in Elkton, Maryland. I've been teaching for 35 years, long time. I love it. Love teenagers.
Rhonda, you were selected to relate an experience that you had with a law enforcement officer locally in your hometown. And this selection led to you attending the White House roundtable discussion to relate the experience in person. Tell our audience about this experience that you had locally with police officers.
At that point, I was actually teaching in Delaware, which I live right on the Delaware-Maryland line. I was teaching in a school in Delaware. I was coming home from school and I was struck broadside at an intersection by a truck. I don't have any recollection of the accident. I was unconscious for most of my time there at the accident scene, but my first waking memory was a state trooper reaching through the shattered window, and I was wondering why State Trooper was touching me, and I realized he was checking for my pulse. And in that moment, I realized, kind of got a grip of what had happened. And he started talking to me and told me he was trying to revive me, kept telling me to stay with him because, again, I was in and out of consciousness. And he stayed there with me the entire time. I knew he was calling ambulances and other police officers to come to the scene, and the reaction was so fast because of him, because he was right there. He gathered up all my belongings that he could find at the scene and actually followed the ambulance to the hospital. And he spoke to my husband. I found out later. He spoke to my husband, gave him all my possessions, and told him, that I had regained consciousness to some degree. He stayed with my husband until the physicians came out and said she's going to be okay. And I found out later, the amazing part of this was that this gentleman was an off-duty state trooper who just happened to be sitting at the accident scene, and he immediately just sprang into action and was right there with me the entire time. And, policemen, we hear that to protect and to serve, and he was the embodiment of that, as he just immediately reacted out of his kindness, just because it was, I think it went beyond his job. It was had to do with the compassion of the heart to do that. To me, that's just how I felt, that he, had more to do with his character, as much to do with his character as it did that was his job.
Thank you. But what a great story.
Thank you.
So your story was submitted to the White House. Tell us about getting the call to be invited to the White House to participate in this event.
Well, I love Amac, and I saw this prompt, and I've had numerous positive experiences with police officers throughout my life, and my immediate response was, I'm absolutely going to share my experience, this particular experience, because I have great respect for our law enforcement officials, and they lay their lives on the line for us every day. So I immediately responded to that. And I was shocked when I received a call from the White House saying, so you submitted this article through AMAC, and we'd like you to come and visit the president. And my immediate response was, okay, this is a hoax. Really, this doesn't happen to me. It was really shocked for a few minutes after I got the call. I just was kind of silent on the phone, and the White House liaison was like, hello? And I said, okay, sorry, I just am a little bit shocked here. So I was very, very surprised.
Okay, Rhonda, you got the call. You're invited. Now tell us about the experience of attending the roundtable discussion and seeing President Trump and Vice President Pence and Attorney General William Barr.
Surreal is a very good word. You're sitting in a room You go through this experience of being in the White House, on the compound, the entire staff from the moment that we stepped foot onto the property, my husband and I, could not have been more welcoming, more polite. A lot of people think that Disney World has the greatest hospitality on earth. I would say no, it has to be the White House staff. They could not do enough for us. They made you feel like royalty. They were, everyone was that way. And my position was sitting to the Attorney General's right and looking down that hallway that I've seen hundreds of times on press releases, the red carpet where the president walks down the hallway. But to see he and Vice President Pence enter the room where you are was truly surreal. It was a thrilling moment. At the same time, throughout the course of the discussion, the roundtable meeting, all three of them were just very cordial, very open. They completely conveyed the attitude that we were the people. We were the voice of the people in that moment. And he was listening to what we had to say because of the plans that he had. And I was very touched by their sincerity, by their concern. Afterwards, we got to speak with the Attorney General who, after everything was over, he looked at me and said, "Well, Rhonda, it was a pleasure meeting you. I hope you have a wonderful stay in Washington, D.C." And I just thought that was so personable, to use my first name, to just be so kind, allow everyone to all their photo ops that they wanted, he and Vice President Pence. And the Vice President was like an old friend to everyone he spoke with, just encouraging, kind. I felt like I had known him for years instead of moments. It was a wonderful experience, one I will cherish always.
Now, Rhonda, you've heard from your fellow teachers and former students since your appearance at this event, haven't you?
Yes, I have, Andy. I've gotten to be in contact with a lot of students from my past, being in this area for 35 years. I've had the opportunity to come in contact with many, many lives, many families. And so through Facebook, through YouTube videos that some people saw, some of my students were astounded. They were reaching out to me that I have currently. And most thrilling, I think, for students that are now adults that have reached out to me and said, "Oh my goodness, Mrs. Norris, I knew it was going to be you. I can't believe that you got to talk to the president. If anybody got to talk to the president, it would be you." And it was thrilling. Teachers that I've taught with from the past in other states, they've also reached out to me and said, "Oh my goodness." A lot of my friends who are history teachers have said, "Why did an English teacher get to go? Why not a history teacher?" They've teased me about that. And I told them how exciting it was and how it was that they would have truly been in love with the experience of getting to be there in the White House, meet the president and the vice president and the attorney general, that it was a thrill. And it's been, again, surreal to have this opportunity. It's humbling. It's very humbling.
Rhonda, let's have a little fun here. Do you have any advice for any AMAC member who may be invited to the White House in the future?
Take the opportunity. If you see a prompt that AMAC puts out there, write the essay. It was a wonderful opportunity, and take it. And it was exceptional. It will be something that you will cherish forever.
Thanks for taking the time to speak with us today, Rhonda, and thank you for representing AMAC at this wonderful event.
Thank you, Andy, for the opportunity. It was exceptional.
Joining us now is Debby Wisner, an AMAC member in Maryland who had the opportunity to visit the White House recently at the President's Roundtable on Police Protecting Americans. Debby, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure, Debby. Hey, you just recently joined AMAC, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And tell us why you joined.
Because I wanted an alternative to the very liberal AARP.
Debby, the White House was interested in your story involving local police about a stolen purse and a stolen mobile phone and somebody wanting to return it in the middle of the night. Would you please share that experience with our audience?
Sure. My purse was stolen, and in it, along with my credit cards, was my phone. We deactivated the credit cards, and we also put a special message on these smartphones that said, if found, please call this number. Nothing came of it for the first couple of nights. And then on the third night, at midnight, someone called and said, I have your phone. Would you be willing to offer a reward? So I said, of course. And my husband said, no. And the person, I said, I'll be happy to meet you somewhere. And the person said, no, I'll bring it to your house. What's your address? And against my husband's advice, I gave him my address. And then when I hung up, I said, and we're calling the police because they're going to be involved with this. And sure enough, we called the police, and they were there immediately to guide us through the situation.
So what happened then?
So the police came. They interviewed us. They heard our story. They gave us their cell phone. They said, we will be out of sight around the corner the minute this person shows up. Please give us a call, and we'll be here. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, the person showed up. He got out of the car, walked up the driveway, and we called the police. And 2 squad cars were there immediately. They checked him out. His story was true, and I gave him a reward, and I was grateful that my police were there to intervene for this situation at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, I believe you would not have done it otherwise, right?
Absolutely not. I would not have given my address if I hadn't known I was going to call the police and expected that they were going to help me.
There were other people at the roundtable event, and you heard other stories like yours. Can you remember one and share it with us?
The one that stands out to me is the mother whose daughter was trafficked in her neighborhood. She wasn't stolen and sold out of the country. She was trafficked here around her community. And she reached out to the police, who really cracked down on this and rescued her daughter from the situation and rescued their family. It was MS-13 that was trafficking her daughter.
And local police really came through.
The police not only stopped the situation, but they had to relocate her and her family.
Okay, Debbie, you got the call, you got the invitation to go to the White House. Tell us about that experience.
Oh my goodness. When you get a call from an unknown number and the person on the other end of the line says, hello, this is such and such from the White House. Yeah, I didn't really believe them. I said, no, you're not really from the White House. And he said, yes, I am, ma'am, and I can prove it to you. So we had a conversation. He sent me an invitation by email. The process was very smooth. They did a background check. We showed up. They were so gracious to us. It was like they were waiting for us to come. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your time. And it was really the opposite. Thank you for inviting us.
Debbie, I'm being funny here, but what a great benefit of membership in Amac going to the White House, right?
Who would have ever imagined that my membership with Amac would have gotten me a ticket into the White House?
Well, we're certainly glad you were there, Debbie. Thank you for representing Amac at the White House event, and thank you so much for taking the time to share your story here today.
Thank you for having me.